Hey there, guys. Welcome back. My name is Sarah Nicole Nadler. I'm your host today, and we're going to be talking here on the Six Figure Biz Show about how to build a team that you can actually trust. Have you ever had an employee betray your trust? Maybe you hired them with certain expectations, right? And then you turn around and one day and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're on their phone playing on Facebook or something when they're supposed to be getting their work done. The tasks are not completed. They're not showing up on time, things like this. What do you do in those situations? So today we're going to talk about how to build that team you can trust and how to actually know that you're not the reason why your employees are actually not on task. So as a business coach, I've seen 7 and even 8-figure business owners lose A players on their team because they're making some very avoidable mistakes. So today I want to talk to you about those mistakes and how you can avoid them. It doesn't always mean that the employee is lazy or is naturally a bad person because they're off task. You can do something about even the employees who do have a rather poor work ethic. So let me show you how. First of all, you have to understand that in the 1970s, a man named Dr. Alfred Barrios completed a study of the most famous geniuses in the world. People like Einstein, Socrates, etc., Da Vinci, and he found and published certain principles, essentially, that all of these geniuses had in common. And he published a paper on the topic where he said, most people have the mistaken idea that geniuses are born, not made. But if you look at the lives of the world's greatest geniuses, like Edison, Socrates, Da Vinci, Shakespeare, Einstein, you'll discover that they all had 24 personality characteristics in common. So he goes on to talk about characteristics. For example, let's take honesty, right? Honesty is one of the 24 characteristics of genius. What's interesting about these qualities is they're all inborn traits. It's not like some people are naturally honest and other people are naturally dishonest. We all have the capability to be honest. It's just that some people either choose not to be or don't know how to actually overcome their fear of consequences, etc., to actually be that honest. So he goes on to say, Dr. Barrios, these are traits that anyone can develop. It makes no difference how old you are, how much education you have, or what you have accomplished to date. Adopting these personality characteristics enables you to operate on a genius level. So that's great for you and I, but how does this tie back into our employees? If you look at it, these are not just innate to people like you and me who are ambitious, driven business owners, right? These qualities are also innate, meaning inherent, meaning we are all born with them. Your employees are too. And as a leader, we have to learn the skill of how to draw those characteristics out of people rather than only allowing them to demonstrate them some of the time or not demonstrate them others, right? So here are the lists of the 24 characteristics of genius. These are the qualities you wish you saw in your employees, right? Like devotion to goals, honesty, optimism, enthusiasm, the ability to have judgment, right? You've probably seen instances where like, oh, how did they not realize that that was wrong, right? Those qualities of the ability to judge, their own dynamic drive, right? Their ability to persuade, as your sales team definitely needs persuasion as a skill, right? Their ability to communicate. These are things we can actually hone in your employee. And what I find really interesting is that as a clinical psychologist, Barrios's work was not theoretical. This was something he was actually able to develop. He proved that these are inborn traits in all of us. They simply need to be drawn out. And what sets these famous geniuses apart, like Einstein, Da Vinci, Socrates, etc., is that they actually made a study of drawing these characteristics out in themselves. They put specific attention on becoming more courageous, becoming more versatile, right? Da Vinci is famous for being the Renaissance man, right? He is 100% versatile. He could paint, he could also draw, he could also invent things, right? There's certain artists these days who are very versatile. Look at, Lady Gaga. She's a wonderful singer, right? She's also a songwriter. She's also an actress, right? She also does speeches and things like that. She's a great public speaker. And so that versatility is what makes a person a genius, but it's not because they were born differently than you and I. It's because they've learned how to actually draw those qualities out in themselves. So those of you who are watching on live, I'm curious. I'm going to move this out of the way so you can actually see this. I want you to look at these qualities and tell me in the chat, which ones do you feel you have? Which ones are you strongest at? I can tell you right now, I have a lot of drive. I'm usually kind of courageous. I've stood up to some scary moments in my life. Devotion to goals, I definitely have that one. Optimism, not always so much, right? Honesty, I think I'm a pretty honest person, at least try to be, right? Ability to judge, I could probably work on that sometimes, right? Enthusiasm, I definitely got that one. So I want to hear for you, those of you who are watching this live, comment in the chat for me, which of these qualities of genius do you feel you already have? And as you're going down this list, I want you to ask yourself, which of these qualities do I feel I already have naturally? Which of them have I already developed in myself? For example, outgoingness. I'm definitely an outgoing person now, but believe it or not, this might come as a surprise to some of you since I have a video channel on Facebook every week, but I did not start out that way. When I was growing up, I was the most shy, introverted, embarrassed person you've ever met. And in fact, my mother used to try to bribe me into talking to strangers. Talk about a reverse, right? Most parents tell their kids, don't talk to strangers. My mom would literally bribe me with pizza just so I would talk to strangers because she was trying to develop outgoingness in me, right? And it worked. Obviously, I've also taken classes on communication and I've done some therapy to remove trauma on the subject and whatnot. But there are ways to overcome shyness and even debilitating shyness. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. I couldn't tell who this was. It just says Facebook users, but drive, perception, outgoingness, honesty, these are genius qualities. But what's amazing about these, right, is some of these we have naturally, just from the day we're born, like, yeah, I've always been that way. That's my personality. But we tend to think of these qualities as personality traits when they're really things that you can draw out from anyone. Everybody has the capability to have imagination. Everybody has the capability to be honest. Some people might have greater quantity of imagination than others, right? But we all have that characteristic. And when you recognize that these are inborn natural traits we all have, suddenly that opens the door to being able to improve your team. Can you see that? Because we can draw these qualities out of your team. We can raise their work ethic. We can actually make them want to be more honest. We can make them want to be better at communicators, better at persuasion for your sales team, right? More perfectionists if they're a delivery team, right? We can actually draw these things out. Even a sense of humor. Pretty much everybody has the capability, right, to have a sense of humor. And that can be a really, really valuable quality in the workplace. So what's interesting about this is there are people who have developed methodologies to draw these out. Obviously, you've probably heard of some of these. For example, a famous one is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich book. He says in that book, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, right? And so he focuses on just positive thinking, right? If you've read Think and Grow Rich, it's all about basically just postulating that something will occur and therefore it occurs, right? So that was the key. If you can truly make yourself believe you have that quality, you can express it. But that's the problem, right? Like, how do we make ourselves believe that we can do this? So, for example, one of those qualities was the quality of courage. How many stories have we all heard of a normal, everyday guy suddenly defeating Goliath, right? Like, so simply because they found the courage to do so. Dr. Barrios says it takes courage to do things others consider impossible. Stop worrying what people will think if you are different, right? So he leaves little clues as to how to do this. But what's really interesting to me is that years later, after Dr. Barrios had passed, right, his 24 Characteristics of Genius was actually, the rights to that were purchased by a man named Bob Duggan. Bob Duggan is an American billionaire. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's an incredible guy. And he developed a system for imprinting these 24 characteristics in the genius of his team, okay? His team and his executives. This happened when he took over as CEO of the biopharmaceutical company known as Pharmacyclics. So he took over Pharmacyclics back in the early 2000s, right? And at that time, Pharmacyclics was on the verge of bankruptcy. And they were so broke, in fact, that Bob took the job and he declined an annual salary. So for an entire year, he took no salary, no income, right? Instead, he opted for equity in this failing company. So think about that. You're like a serial entrepreneur, you're a billionaire, or at the time he was a millionaire, not a billionaire. You're a millionaire and you take a job as a CEO of a failing company. Why would you ask for equity in the company? Well, I believe that the reason why he was willing to take equity instead of a salary is because he knew he had the secret to turning this company around. And 3 guesses as to what he used to turn the company around. You guessed it, he taught the 24 characteristics of genius to the entire workforce of this pharmaceutical company called Pharmacyclics, using his unique system to make them actually believe that they could express these 24 characteristics. Now, I learned about Dr. Barris's work when I was working in the nonprofit sector in Los Angeles. And the founder of the nonprofit I was working for, Mr. L. Ron Hubbard, he had been so enamored with Dr. Barris's work that he actually got permission from the psychologist to reprint these 24 characteristics as company policy for his nonprofit organization, right? So that was when I was made aware of them. And I thought, hey, these are really cool, but I didn't really know much about it. Years later, I actually went as a business coach, right? This was almost a decade later. I was hired by a company that uses this with their executive team. And I was teaching it to their new executives, right? And I learned exactly how Bob Duggan did it, how he imprints these characteristics into his team. We did that with this company. It was a 260-person team, right? And we did it with their executive team, and their statistics went boom. And to me, that is really indicative of the fact that these qualities are truly inherent in everyone, right? We all have them. It's simply a question of whether we know how to draw them out of ourselves and whether we know how to draw them out of our team. So I know that the big question in your mind right now is probably, okay, how did Bob do it? Like, what's the why and the how of you actually accomplishing this? And so next week, from Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Central every single day, I'm going to be going live right here on Facebook to show you guys how to do this. I want to show you how to escape the worker bee lifestyle as a business owner by building a true genius team. Okay, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to show you every single step by step what I learned from Bob Duggan on how to actually imprint honesty, drive, perfectionism, versatility, persuasion, good communication skills into your team, okay, so that you can actually succeed as a business owner. So if you would like to join me in my free challenge, go ahead and comment below. A member of my team or I will reach out to you and we will send you the link. And otherwise, have a great week and really take a look at these genius qualities. I'm going to put them up on the screen again. If you want to go ahead and screenshot this, I want you to think about between now and Monday when we go live for the training, think about which of these qualities you have and which ones do you feel you would like to work on the most with me next week, okay? Which of these qualities do you feel you are lacking that maybe would create some personal growth? Or better yet, which ones do you feel your team is lacking that we could actually grow your team's productivity, let's say, right? How are we going to actually grow their productivity by imprinting these qualities into them? All right. Have a great week. I'll talk to you soon.